me here on Instagram. Here you're
Yes,
coming.
you're gonna have to mute one of them.
Yes. Well, no, I'm going to mute that one. Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm here. Does she look like me? Huh? You kind of got my shaped head.
Yeah, people have been saying that Langston looks like you, which is funny. I'm like, well, he
Really?
looks like me, and maybe I look like him. They say
Wow.
Langston has like your mouth.
Wow. So, y'all, I am live here with my one and only daughter, Kindra Monet Daniels, formerly Bailey, who's been married now for a little over 2 whole years, living in the Big Apple, the great city of New York, where she has lived since, well, how long have you lived in New York, Kindra?
I moved to New York for an internship January 2014.
January. So she's been in New York
So it's about to be a decade. But
for
I officially
almost,
moved there in
wow,
October. But yeah.
almost 10 years, where she was just in her senior year of college from Coastal Carolina. She was just supposed to be going there. We thought for a semester. I thought for a semester
Mom knew.
for, and but Pastor Marcia said she wasn't coming back. Our baby's not coming back. I said, oh, she'll be back. She'll be back. So I thank all y'all for joining us. Y'all, this is unscripted. We
Hmm.
deliberately and intentionally have not talked about what we're going to talk about. But on this coming Friday night at Right Direction Church International, we're having what I traditionally call, what Dad didn't tell you about men, single ladies night. It's a night where I just sit down with the ladies of Right Direction, single ladies, and so I'm coining it now, father daughter talk. So I said
Hmm.
we're using this kind of as a precursor to that. And all of you, all the single ladies, we want you to come out and be with us on Friday night. We're asking you to scan that to register. We just want to know how many people are going to come so we know exactly where to host it on our campus. We have various venues on our campus that we can host this event. We need to know that we're hosting in the right place. And so scan that. Those of you single ladies who will come, and I'm gonna give $100 to the Right Direction sister single lady who brings the most girlfriends with you. Is that an incentive? Yeah,
That's an incentive.
brings the most girlfriends with you. Now there can't be other Right Direction members.
They
Got to
can't meet up
bring
in the parking lot and just come in a
yeah,
group.
got to bring other single ladies, and they can't be taking their rings off because I'm going to be checking to see if they got rings around their finger and all that. Single ladies, bring them with you on Friday night at 7 o'clock. But tonight again, I'm with my daughter. So, daughter, how was your day?
Today was good. It was a full day. So, my husband is a little bit under the weather. He's on the up and up today, but I told him just to take it easy today. Don't, I think at post COVID, I feel like we shouldn't have been sick yesterday and in people's face today. I think we should all learn from that. So we stayed home. So it was, me just got Langston to church by myself. And
Wow.
I teach our growth track, which is our membership course at Trinity. So it was our step 2. So I taught that while wearing Langston, just made it work. And then we, came home and had some fun family time. So it was a good day. I was thinking about how uh, I've been getting a lot of comments lately about how different my life looks now,
Yeah,
from just 5 years ago. So it's been so much change,
and
but
definitely,
it's good.
and definitely more than 10, 12 years ago.
Oh yeah, 10 years ago, totally
Oh,
different.
Jesus, y'all,
Praise the Lord.
y'all, y'all,
And
y'all.
before we go further, Dad, I wanted to make sure that the audio is okay on Instagram because I know that the audio is coming through from my computer, but then I don't want there to be feedback on Instagram. But no one's complaining about it, so I think we must be good on both because I'm on YouTube and Facebook here, and I'm on Instagram here. So
Okay,
okay,
cool. So, y'all, so Kendra is my only daughter. She is 30.
I'm stuck at 30, but I think I'm 31. I'm 31. There is an
You
echo.
are, yes,
There
you
is
are.
an echo. I don't know what to do about the echo. Where I
There's a,
should hear the
there's
audio
a,
from.
there's an echo.
I think the
Um,
only way to prevent it would be for me to put some headphones on.
it, well, I'm not sure. It's probably still going to be an echo from me as well.
No,
Um,
I think it's probably coming from me because you. Let me see. These aren't cute, but they're the ones I have. Let me see.
okay. Yeah, y'all. So Kendra is 31. She is our only daughter out of 4 children. And without giving you all my business, even though I've told this, is kind of people kind of know my business, but we were done. We were done having children, and I kept telling Pastor Marsha, let's try for a girl, and then after Daniel was born, she actually cried. Right. I didn't hear anything different. I don't want to hear anything that I wasn't having a girl. So I was learning the power of confession and all that at that time. So I figured if I just confessed and believed, we would have a girl. And it is wonderful that Daniel is a straight up masculine young man, because I confessed that he was going to be a girl. And the doctor even tried to show us anatomy. I'm like, no, 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 you don't know. It's too soon. It's too soon. We had a boy. And so after that, Marsha cried. She said, one time, Mom said, we're going to have a basketball team.
I mean, I feel her. I can't. I can only imagine. I would have cried too.
She said, we're going to have a basketball team. So I went to the doctor to permanently make sure that we wouldn't have any more children. So we were done after 3. And the day I was at the doctor making sure we would permanently have no more children, Marsha said to me, well, guess what? While you were at the doctor, I was at the doctor, and we're having another baby. And that baby is, ta-da, Kindra Moné, formerly Bailey, now Daniels. And so it was the will of God to give us our daughter. So Kindra, how would you describe our relationship when you were coming up as a child?
Oh, well, coming up as a child, I would say we had a good relationship. I think one thing I told you that you heard for the first time recently was that I kind of like always wanted to like talk to you more, or like I would like plan things to talk to you about. And then I would go downstairs and I'm like, so this happened today. You're like, oh, that's great, sweetie. And I'm like, dang it, that didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I got to think of something else. But I think we had a
well,
good
so was I busy?
I
Did I
think
seem
you
like I
were,
was busy and preoccupied?
yeah, I think when I was younger, you were busy and preoccupied, and you would come home and you were tired when you were home. So one of the things I would look forward to was taking your shoes off. You know, you would come and be like, oh, take my shoes off. So I felt like that was an important role I had. I would take off your shoes. So that always, made me feel good. But I felt that you were caring, you were loving. You took me on my first date, which I shared about, recently. For anyone who hasn't heard the story, my dad took me on my first date when I was 8 or 9 years old, I believe. You
Sounds
came
about
home
right.
with, yeah, I didn't come home. You went outside with the flowers, knocked on the door, called for me appropriately, kind of showed me how it should be when when a man takes a woman out on a date. And, I think we went out to eat somewhere, but I know we went to Barnes and Noble, which I used to love Barnes and Noble.
I remember you
And
wanted to go by Barnes and Noble.
yeah, you can go anywhere you want. And I was like, Barnes and Noble. And so we went to the Barnes and Noble. I don't know if they still have it. They used to have the cafe at Barnes and Noble. So we went there, and that was special. But I think you really did a good job throughout our relationship of trying to do your best to solidify me and who I am, or to try to get me to see when I couldn't see who I was. You tried to get me to see who I am. And yeah, I would say we had a good relationship.
No, well, now what's interesting is that I remember, and I'll tell you offline who it was, but I won't mention who it was.
I have an
Um,
echo.
yeah, I won't mention publicly who it was, but I'll tell you offline who it was. But I remember seeing there was this couple in our church, and he had girls, and his girls were always like hugging on him.
I know who you're talking about.
His girls were always like, they would like come sit on his lap. And it occurred to me, we didn't have that kind of relationship. And
It's
I
so funny
remember
you say that.
asking you one time. I think I remember asking you. I can't remember when, but some point you may have been grown or a teenager. And I said, Kindra, are you a daddy's girl? You remember me asking you that?
Not particularly.
Not particularly. Well, you basically told me no. you wouldn't really consider yourself a daddy's girl. Not like we were seeing them, like some girls who were like, oh, I just love my daddy. Can't love my daddy. Gotta be around my daddy. Oh, let's love my daddy, my daddy, my daddy. You weren't. I mean, I know you love me, but it wasn't like that.
Yeah, and they're saying on Instagram I have an echo, but I think that's because you're hearing me. Like I think you would have, in order not to, you would have to put on headphones too. So I don't know if we have the solution for that. But yeah, it's so funny you say that because I actually, they say that parenting makes you see things in a different way. And I remember thinking initially, like, wow, Jamel is like very, very affectionate with Langston. And then I was like, he's probably just affectionate in a different way than my dad was, because you were not a very physically affectionate dad. I wouldn't say that that was like part of our relationship. I didn't do a lot of sitting on your lap and stuff like that. And it makes sense because you probably were not raised with like a lot of physical touch.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't think that we had a physical touch wasn't a big part of our relationship. But I
Do
don't think that I took that personally or anything like that. I think even as I got older, that was something I understood about you because of, I know how you were raised and I know your paradigm. And I know that probably from how you were raised, you probably felt like you were mushy and lovey-dovey.
yeah.
But we didn't have a lot of physical touch.
Yeah. I think I was probably more emotionally disconnected.
Hmm.
Um, I have a very, very score very high on emotional intelligence. Um, as a young married man and even as a young father, because as you said, it wasn't something I was raised with. It wasn't
Hmm.
anything that I saw the example of. I mentioned in church a couple of weeks ago that I remember the one time very specifically, I remember hearing my mother say, I love you. And
Hmm.
it was when I was going to West Virginia to spend the summer with my grandmother, with my father and grandmother in West Virginia. And my mother said, and the fact that that stands out to me tells you something.
Yeah.
There's one time I recall, and so we didn't express um, verbally. We didn't express love in my family, and of course, it's not like you grow up feeling like you're missing something because this is your norm.
Right.
Okay,
You don't
uh,
know what you don't know.
yeah, and then we didn't do hugging and kissing and all that kind of stuff. I grew up to learn to do them, and your mom literally would tell me, "Come on, put your arms around me, hug me, stay there." Like
It's not over.
she would give me hug therapy, showing me how to be affectionate. Now, I had no problem me being affectionate with her in the bedroom, but like you mean like just standing here in the kitchen? I'm supposed to hug you, and so it's really important for people to recognize, and it's important even for children to recognize. Sometimes it you you hold your parents to a standard that they don't even know they should be meeting.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that takes maturity of the child to even understand. You're not going to understand that as a kid, the standards you held them to. And when I look back, I would still say there was definitely like a lot of daddy's girl um, things about our relationship.
Sure,
But if I was younger and comparing it to maybe that house of the guy with a lot of the dad with a lot of the daughters who was hugging them and kissing them and stuff like that, I didn't have that. And I do think I probably could have benefited from more male softness,
mm,
male gentleness towards me.
sure.
Um, from just not from you, and also from my brothers who were all like beating me up all the time. And so the first time that a guy was kind of like, "Hey, let me hold you here," I was like, "Oh, this is nice." So I think that that is one thing I could have benefited from
I
was
remember you
a
also
little physical
saying.
touch.
I remember you also say in your dating relationships that you used to be accused of being like a dude.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we were joking around about me recently. I'm like, I wouldn't say that I was a man eater per
Right.
se, but I was a little bit. But I mean, if it ain't gonna be it, then let's move on. That was more my perspective. It was like, I knew, I saw from my brothers what it looked like when they liked a girl and what they looked like when they didn't like a girl. And I feel like I understood men pretty well, which allowed me to be a good dater. At one point, my husband, when we first got engaged, he was almost worried, like, dang, was she just great at dating? Or what about the rest of it? I had dating down packed, and it was a great girlfriend. I had to learn how to be a wife.
Mm.
So yeah, I definitely did. I was a little bit emotionally detached sometimes, I could say, but that was just because I didn't I didn't treat every boyfriend like he was going to be my husband, because I knew he wasn't. I dated a lot of guys that I knew I shouldn't have even dated them, but I knew it was for now. And so I would kind of be like, time's
Well,
up on this relationship.
so you wouldn't say that during dating, when you were dating, you displayed attributes of neediness or thirstiness.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was pretty secure outside of my relationship. And even like, I had boyfriends all through high school and through college, but I actually didn't have a problem being single, even though it may have seemed, because I was always dating people. I used to feel like I always ended up in relationships, but I was very secure being single. And when I moved to New York, I was actually single, really, for the most, truly kind of up until I dated one, somebody I tried to get into a relationship before I met my husband, and it was like trying to put a shoe in the wrong foot, but it just didn't fit. But for the most part, during my time in New York, I was single, and I
Mm.
was good with it. I always felt like I I know that one day I'm going to meet somebody. I'm going to meet my husband. I'm going to get married one day. I've always firmly believed that. And I wasn't rushing for it. Even when I would come back home to South Carolina and 25, and you 25 in South Carolina and you're single, it's old. Not in New York, but in South Carolina, that's how people would see me in the bathroom and be like, "Don't worry, honey, one day you're going to get married too." And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
so
not tripping.
you said the bath. Are you talking about church people?
Church people.
Yeah. Wow. Would they really say that?
No, yes, I've literally been told that. Like, don't worry, you're gonna meet somebody. Don't worry, your time is coming. And I'm like, I'm not worried. Should I be worried? I'm fine.
Well, and then also, I guess your
They
brothers,
were all married by
they were
26.
married. They were married in their late mid. I mean, by mid 20s at
By
least.
26, they were all married.
Yeah.
Chandler got married at 21, I think.
Right. Okay. So by now you've had a lot of girlfriends,
Hmm,
friends
hmm.
and one thing, I mean, from what I see, you must be a pretty good friend. And the reason why I say that is because you have some really long-term friendships. And y'all, the thing about Kindra, y'all, for some reason, Kindra, I don't know how she does this, but Kindra has managed to make all her friends each
Friends
other's.
with each other.
I don't know how she does that. So she got the church friends who she grew up in church with. She got her college friends who she grew up. She has her sorority sisters. She has her basketball athletic friends, and some kind of way, y'all, they all have been made to be each other's friends.
They go on trips without me now. I'm like, really?
How does that happen?
Um, you know, how does that happen? I think that, thank you for saying that I'm a good friend. I think I um, prioritize being a good friend. I used to really feel like friendship was a calling of mine, that I was
Mhm.
called to be a good friend. I feel like friendship is a ministry. It's a way that I feel like friendship is a ministry I'm called to. So I'm glad that that has shown throughout my life. And I think that I just choose good people. And also, one of the things is, I level set. You don't get to be jealous over me, and I don't do jealous friendships.
Mm.
You know how some girlfriends will be like, I saw someone post a meme recently that said, "My best friend's best friend is my enemy," because it's like, oh, she's hanging out with my friend. I hate that. No, y'all both come. I can't do one-on-ones with everybody. I don't got time for that. Okay, I'm having this. Everybody pull up. Everybody come together. And so I think that, and I have a non-jealous relationship with my friends. I encourage. I'm excited about them having other friendships. Some women can be a little territorial in their friendships. And so I've never been that way. And so I think that does encourage, people to come together a bit. And I try to bring people together. And, one of the things that actually made me feel that way. Oh, thank you, Leah. Leah Johnson. She's from New York at Trinity. She said, I'm a wonderful friend. Um, one of the things that Taina taught me, so one of my best friends from high school, Taina Laporte, she passed away in 2016. And at her funeral, kind of, I guess you could say after party, all the young people, for her friends from all over were together. Her friends from college, her friends from church, her childhood friends, and everyone was speaking about her the same way. There was no surprises. We didn't learn anything new. We might have heard a new funny story, but we were like, man, that sounds like Taina. And I think at that point in my life, I was living very compartmentalized. And I was like, you know what? I don't think that my church friends and my college friends would say the same thing about me. I think my church friends would be surprised about some of the things. And I think my college friends would be surprised about how I am at church. And I was like, I don't want that to be how I am. That was a real turning point for me, where I was like, I need to be a transparent person that lives the same way around everybody.
So your church friend need to know that you twerk too.
Yes. Absolutely.
So let's talk about your friends in terms of what your own life experience with me as your father, or just having a father, and how have you seen having a father or not having a father and the impact of a father play out, not just in your life, but in the life of your friends?
This is such a good question, because this is something I've been thinking about a bit more recently, about the way that I moved through life. I was able to really move through life with a bit of security. There's a confidence and a security that comes from knowing that you are covered by a father. It's just is what it is. And then not even that, I was never the girl that was say, I'm gonna send my brothers on you. Because I'm like, that's reckless. Okay. I would never insert the men in my life into a situation to go send them to fight, or whenever girls would be so ready to do that. That would always blow my mind, because I'm like, you want your brother to get in trouble? You want your father to
Right.
get stabbed? No. So I would never abuse that. But I did always know, if it came down to it, there's people that you won't have to see about me if you
Right.
really try me. And so I think I had that confidence. And so I can't say if it necessarily created a difference between me and my friendships, but because I can't speak from their point of view, but I can say that for me, I know that I was able to have that level of confidence, that level of security, that I know that I'm covered. And, we want to say that we live in a different world today, that we're so progressive and, women's rights and equality. But the real question is, you see it in the Bible, whose woman is that? That's what they said when Ruth went, and Ruth was she went in the fields, and she was picking up after the people that were working there, and they saw her and they said, whose woman is she? And I think that people still treat women the same way in our society. The question is, whose woman is she? And there's a vulnerability when there's no direct answer for that.
Now, but now I'm sure, I know this is going to sound a little ignorant, but there was this young lady, I happened to stumble across her on Twitter, I think during the pandemic, who is a graduate of Oral Roberts University. She's a Christian, but she's a Christian feminist. And she would make all these tweets about the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, y'all, forgive me, I guess because I'm part of the patriarchy. I didn't know what the patriarchy was. And I remember putting in...
How patriarchal of you.
I remember putting in her, getting in her thread and responding, and also sending her a message saying, seriously, I said, I'm a pastor. You keep talking about this patriarchy. What is the patriarchy? We got to tear down the patriarchy. The patriarchy has done this. I'm like, what is it? What's the patriarchy? So what I got to say to you saying that, with the thought of whose woman is this? And you're saying that with respect to covering. Some people would consider that to be patriarchal. Some people consider that's antiquated, that a woman needs to be associated with a man.
I wish it wasn't that way. I'm not saying that it's the way it should be. I'm just saying it is, that's the way it is, that people are going to ask whose woman is this, whether consciously or not. There was a psychological study. So my undergrad is in psychology, and we were talking about sexism, and men, it's crazy. Men's brain, the same part that goes off in their brain when they see a chair is what goes off when they see a woman who they have no relationship to. Like, the average man is not trained to automatically respect a random woman. And I wish it wasn't like that, but it takes context for a lot of time for the average man. You know, if they saw a sister, a mother, or a woman holding a baby, or a woman in some certain circumstance, they were able to humanize her a little bit more. But when they saw a random woman, that human thing just didn't go off. I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but it's the way it is. And so whether it's physically, and also physically, women, we have times in our lives where we need protection, whether we're smaller, whether we're pregnant or giving birth, or more recently giving birth. It is what it is, that women need the protection of men.
Okay.
This is coming from someone who considers herself a feminist.
Okay. How do you define feminism?
I define feminism as
a Christian woman. How do you reconcile feminism with Christianity and your generation?
I don't think that the true definition of feminism doesn't
Negate?
Cancel out, negate, any of that. The true definition of feminism is believing that women and men are equal. I believe that men and women are equal. And just because we have different roles doesn't mean that they're not equal or that one is less important. I think that the women and men, the roles that we play, are equally important. So, I don't think that negates Christianity at all.
But you realize there are some who do think, who kind of preach, teach, perpetuate that kind of thinking, that in some type of way Christianity is the antithesis of equality between men and women.
So I think that's because people misquote scriptures that women must submit to men. That's not in the Bible. Women submit to your own husbands.
Right.
You know, that has nothing to do with submitting to men or saying that women can't be in leadership.
So you submit to your husband?
I do. I try to.
You try to.
I think I do.
Says, wives, submit to your husbands in all things. That's what the word say.
Mm-hmm. I would consider myself a submissive wife.
Okay. Since this is father-daughter talk, I'm not going to ask your husband's opinion here. But back to this thing about fathers with respect to you, what roles, or I think the question I asked, how do you think having a father has, from what, and of course, in some cases, you're on the outside looking in, has shapen or not shapen having a father or not having a father, has, from what you see with women and your friends and your peers?
So I can say, I do think that having a father, or even if it's not your biological father, I think having that male presence, that male figure in your life, it helps you set the standard. It helps you have a vision for what you want for your life, because you can't desire something unless you've seen it and know what it looks like. And I think that sometimes I will witness, whether it's my friends or, what people in my life, women just accept less. I think that the bar is a little bit lower. And this is me from the outside. I can't relate. I'm not trying to speak to a situation that I don't have experience in, but I think that the bar is a little bit lower. Only even if for no other reason that I know that this man can't stand next to my brothers and my dad. That was a straight up bar for me. This guy,
your dad and your brothers became a standard for you.
Became a standard. Like, is he gonna look like a sucker standing next to my brother? Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Now that first guy you brought home from college, I don't think you were thinking about that.
I didn't want to bring him home, and that's why.
First guy you brought home from college, who I looked out the bathroom window over by the driveway, and I got ready to open the window and say, "Don't even bring him in. Just take him back to wherever you came from."
But see, if you remember, I did not ask you to meet him. You knew I was spending time with somebody and you demanded to meet him. And honestly, I think we actually broke up shortly after that because I was so turned off by how he couldn't really shake your hand or look you in the eye. And then the next guy I brought home that was a dub was similar situation. He was acting afraid of my brothers, couldn't look them in the eye, couldn't. So that was just like a bar for me. Like, okay, if you can't, and I was like, my dad and my brothers are all stand-up men. So if you can't stand up next to them, not going to work. But then if I didn't have that as an example, that may have not been a bar for me. I also think that by seeing how you treated mom, I knew that that was out there and that was something to strive for, and that you were vocal about being monogamous to her and that that was a priority to her. And so I knew that you don't have to live a life where you are constantly going off on your man for cheating on you. I don't know if some women realize that you actually don't have to deal with that. Like that doesn't have to be a part of your relationship, is cheating and checking phones and having other people. That is something I have, even as a teenager, I have never tolerated somebody trying to cheat on me.
And what I hear you saying is because you saw our relationship with your mom and dad, that wasn't part of our norm to be having this drama. And
Yeah.
and I have a real concern about so many young people today who watch ratchet television, and that's what they see on ratchet television, that they think that some kind of way that becomes a norm.
Yeah.
Or they hear that among their girlfriends, whatever, that becomes a norm, that they expect that you got to be checking phones and asking who's this, and
Yeah,
it's real
it's
drama.
a mess. But now I'm not going to say people can get through infidelity. You can get through it, especially in a marriage, and that you have to understand the difference between a bad situation and somebody having bad character. You have to understand, was this a situation? Have they repented? Are they recovered or whatever? Or is this their character? But I think that one of the things that you taught me was about how important character was. And so that's something that is like huge to me. I'm like, wow, this is not, someone keeps showing you the same thing over and over again, you might have to say like, oh, is this actually their character? It's more than a circumstance.
So you've been married now for a little over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot, but there are people here who may not know, the history of you and Jamel. You had dated in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think you were gonna be found by a husband in New York?
It's so funny. I know you used to always say, you gonna have to move if you want to get married, right? You
You
used to
tell
tell
me
me
that.
that. And I'm like, I was open to it. I never wanted to live here.
Huh?
I never planned on living in New York. It
You
happened.
told me when I should take you to New York when you was a teenager. You told me one day I'm going to come here and live.
I did.
Yes, I'm going to
I
come and live
forgot.
in New York.
I forgot about that.
And which is why I regretted exposing you on your spring breaks to New York.
I thought I was gonna move to LA or something.
Now you talked about that too when you were
Yeah.
doing the modeling thing.
Yeah, I thought I was going to move to LA. By the time I was moving to New York happened because I had an opportunity here, and then I realized that other opportunities were here. And then, actually, probably about a year before me and Jamel met, I had started to explore, like, okay, there was an opportunity maybe in Nashville. There was an opportunity maybe about coming back to Columbia. So I started to explore my options. So I wasn't sold on New York in that way, but I also just really believed that I was a wife and that it was going to happen for me some way or another. And that if I was supposed to be in New York, that meant that I would be a wife in New York or wherever God would have me. I never had like a scarcity mindset about, oh, and even like, I'm tall, I'm like 5'10" and a half, almost 5'11". People would even say like, is it hard dating being a tall woman? And I'm like, no, it's not. There are plenty of men that are taller than me. I've never had a problem dating because of my height. It's not like I think that I'm like I think I'm cute, but I don't think that I am like the most person in the world, but I've never had a problem dating. And I think half of that is because of my outlook and my perspective. And speaking of marriage, somebody said in the comments, it was funny. They said on the YouTube comment, they said, unfortunately, some submission sometimes sounds like slavery.
Yeah, I
And
saw
that
that.
is so funny, but it is not. Here's the thing. If you have somebody who you trust leading, then it's okay to have them lead. We all submit in our day-to-day lives to different things. You submit to the green light or the red light. You submit to your manager, your boss at work, and it's submitting to
Submit
your
to the
leader.
school crossing, God.
We submit all the time. And I think that in a marriage, if you are with someone who isn't domineering over you, who values you as well, and who doesn't want to trample over you, then you're not going to feel that way. If you are following somebody that's worth leading, leadership doesn't have to look like dominance. And it can also it could also look like letting you lead when your expertise is the one that's being, called. So I just wanted to put that
Yeah.
in there.
Dominance is the antithesis of submission, because submission is something that one does from an internal motivation, an internal desire, not outward pressure. That's dominance.
Mm-hmm.
And so submission is something that you choose to do. Okay, it's not something that's imposed upon you. And so when I did some teaching one time, I think it was really one of the greatest revelations the Lord gave me about the man's responsibility to carry himself as someone who's worthy to be submitted to. And that is, I did a lesson called Loving and Leading Like the Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us know Psalms 23 that says, the Lord is my shepherd. So the shepherd, a sheep submits to the shepherd, a sheep lets the shepherd lead him. I shall not want. So the first thing I said, if you're the type of man who your sheep, in this context, your wife, knows that you're going to make sure she doesn't want, she's not going to have a problem submitting to you. He makes me to lie down in green pasture, lead me beside still waters. So I have confidence his leading is going to lead me to a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through that step by step. And so to me, a woman who marries a man, understand, we're talking kingdom here and we're talking Christian. I'm not talking the world system. I ain't talking about how the world does stuff and what's here and there. I'm talking about as Christians now. Please understand that. So don't start putting in all your comments about how people do stuff today. I don't care. I'm talking about from a Christian's perspective. So as a Christian woman should not commit to anyone to whom she's not willing to submit. And if you question whether he's worthy to submit to, you should not marry him. Okay. Oh my goodness. Can we use another word? Because some people see submission as
Triggered.
Yeah, some people see submission as the S word, like it's profanity. And all of us, we submit to the Lord. Again, a submission, it doesn't mean someone dominating over you. It means I take my will and put it under. I get under a mission because I believe you have a mission. I believe you're taking us somewhere, and I believe I can trust your mission.
And let me tell you, if you live, I know a lot of strong women out there. You think that you don't want to submit or whatever, but sometimes you just, yes, please make this decision. Thank you. I trust you. Handle it. It feels good to be able to have a man that you trust enough to be able to say, please handle it. And you know that he is going to do something good with that.
And and the Bible also teaches about the concept of mutual submission. And with mutual submission,
yes,
there's times I feel the same way. There's times when your mom comes to me with something, I'm like, can you please handle that? Can you make that decision? I don't have to make every decision. And in order to really respect each other when it's concept of mutual submission, you recognize the gifts, the talents, the abilities, the strengths, and weaknesses of each other.
Yes.
I had to clarify early on in pastoring, because people will hear me say, well, I handle this at the house, I handle that at the house, I pay all the bills, I manage the budget. And you got brothers, I don't mean harm, who don't know what 2 + 2 is, trying to do a budget. Okay. And your wife has a master's in math. Okay. So maybe she's more qualified to handle the budget. So you recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you help to support one another.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for you, actually, taking a bit of a different turn.
Sure.
So, what was it like for you when you were like, okay, one, oh my God, I'm having a girl. I have 3 sons. What am I going to do with this baby girl? And then, oh my goodness, my daughter is becoming a teenager. What do I do with this? How is that for you?
So I remember what it was. It was scary. It was frustrating. Me and your mom had a lot of arguments or intense times of fellowship because I felt you need to tell her such and such. You need to tell her that dress is too short. You need to tell her. And so I looked at your mom as the image of the woman who she needs to socialize you, help you be the woman you need to be. And so there were times I was very, very frustrated, okay, with respect to those kind of things in terms of, and now you said something earlier, okay, and I'm going to address this with this question. You said this earlier that there was a study about men, the same part of the brain that man sees a chair, he sees a woman, or vice versa.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a chair is a tool, something to be used.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I would hope that men would not, but many times that is a woman out of context is going to look like that or be trigger that for a man. And let me add this. If a woman is dressing like, okay,
Here we
and
go.
y'all need to understand, me and my daughter, we disagree. We still disagree on this dress thing. Okay. But if a woman is dressing like she wants to be a tool, all the more he's seeing her as a tool. Okay. I know I sound extreme here, but I have a problem with sexy Christian women. I got a problem with sexy Christian men. Okay. I got there, there's somebody very popular who we all know very well. I'm not going to use his name, but he's a great man of God. And I told my son Chandler, I said, I can listen to him. I can't watch him. Why are we up here in the pulpit with all our chests open and chains coming down to our navel, preaching the gospel? What is that about? Okay. And so I said, I can listen to you. I'm not, and whether it's a man or a woman. So to me, the whole concept, I know I'm going deep here, y'all. The whole concept of being sexy means to initiate or stimulate thoughts of sex. That's what sexy means, to stimulate thoughts of sex. So when a woman goes around dressing sexy, you're saying, I want to stimulate thoughts of sex. So you can't not get upset when a man sees you as a sex object. If all you're doing is going around, okay?
Hold on now. Don't leave just yet, y'all. Don't leave.
Okay, don't leave. If you're just going around trying to look sexy all the time, I think you can look attractive, okay? I think you can look pretty. You can even look gorgeous without, I mean, my wife, mom today, to me, mom looks so nice today. She looks so pretty. I made sure I told her too when we leave. I said, honey, I said, you look very nice. You look very pretty. But she was not looking sexy. She looked pretty. She looked gorgeous. She looked classy, but it wasn't in stimulating thoughts of sex. So for the Christian woman, if you don't want to just be if you don't want to just be looking like an object, like a chair, I'm using your words, then you need to think about how you're presenting yourself. So now let me go a little deeper and then I'm gonna let you speak it. So talking about raising you as a girl, you know what every man's father's fear is or concern is? That somebody's thinking about his daughter the way he thought about women.
Humbling. Humbling.
Yeah. That I don't want a man thinking those thoughts about my baby like I thought about women. I don't want a man doing to my daughter what I did to women, because it all changes when the girl is yours now. Okay. And so, and on the other hand, I have had men say stuff like, when she bring the guy out to the house, I'm gonna have my shotgun out. I'm bring my gun. You gonna talk? I said, now that's a little crazy because you didn't want nobody. You dated somebody,
Right.
and you didn't want fathers pulling guns on you. So but that shows the extent of the protection that men will take regarding their daughter. And so my whole thing was, I want to make sure that you weren't taken advantage of. I want to make sure that you were protected. I want to make sure you know how to carry yourself, because I know me or your brothers couldn't be around all the time. When I really went through when you moved to New York City. Oh my God. And I think after you moved to New York City, I think I preached this message called Go to Sleep, a series called Go to Sleep.
So that you could go to sleep?
Because the Lord told me, you're going to have to go to sleep. Okay. Her being in New York City, if out to 2:00 in the morning, wherever she is. And when you first got there, you were going to clubs and everything else. Okay.
I was.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm like, okay, I got to go to sleep. I can't just be worried about. I had to know that we raised you, that we pray over you, that we instill values in you, and now you got to make decisions. Period. So that kind of sums up my thoughts about raising a girl.
Wow. Well, the first thing I want to say is that I think it would be so great if men could evolve to the point that they didn't have to have daughters in order to become more empathetic towards women. That would be great. That's the next level, and that's what we have to. Someone said, can we raise our sons to think about women better? Like, yes, all of that is great. And there were also some comments that I thought were pretty good about when it comes to dressing sexy, because this was a major point of contention between me and my dad.
It's not was a major point.
It is.
It is a major point of contention.
Not for me. I'm good.
Okay. I still say to my daughter, as a young woman, even in ministry, girl, that ain't appropriate. Or no, I don't say it to her. I'm thinking it. And
yeah,
I still say it to her mom.
To me, it's all about time and place. And then you said a big thing too, which was like trying to be sexy. And there's sometimes you're trying to be sexy. Sometimes you can't help it if you look sexy in something, especially when it's not on purpose. Now, sure. I think I think it's a lot to ask of a young woman to actively try not to look sexy. Okay. You know what I mean?
Muslim
they do.
Men
they do.
And women would disagree with that.
You know what? You're right. They do. But also that is all on the woman. It's all on the woman. It's your sole responsibility not to lead your brothers into temptation. I mean, can we, I think I'm not going to get too into it, but I think there's a balance. Did I always have this balance? No. We said save some for the imagination. Sure. I think, if it's going to be tight, don't let it be short. That's kind of how I go through now.
So y'all, that was, and I figured that out. We figured that out early about Kindra as well. So Kindra, if it was naked or clothless, materialless, fabricless from here up, then it's going to be long.
Balance.
Okay. If it's short on the thighs, then we're going to be covered up here. But I'm like, can we just cover all that up?
Yeah, see, no, that wasn't. Also, you have to think too, I was an athlete. I played volleyball. I was very not thinking about my body. You know what I mean? The way that I cover things up now is because I have more body than I used to. And I'm like, oh, this looks like something, but I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't half the time I wasn't thinking that, oh, this is going to look sexy or provocative. I was more thinking, okay, this is on trend right now. This is especially when I was young and in college, I was just really wearing what I thought was cute. Even now, me and my volleyball teammates will look at pictures of ourselves and we'll laugh. We're like, were we in a competition of whose skirt could be the shortest? Why did we think that was so cute? Why did we think that was necessary? It wasn't necessary. There were times I could have done a lot better with that. I do think that how you present yourself matters, especially, as we want to be treated a certain kind of way, then you do and I'm not saying it should be like this, but if you do want to be treated like a certain way, people are going to, men are going to present you based off of how, or talk to you based off of how you're presenting yourself. I'm not saying it should be that way, but it is. So if you don't want people to focus on your body, you have to learn not to lead with your body, and then especially, and I know it's so funny because we have different standards of this. I think, especially in recent years, that I've done very well with this. Even when
You
I
have
was,
done so much better.
okay, good. Even
Definitely.
when it comes to social media too, like I remember it's very tempting to, you see who's getting all the likes. Okay. You see that this is like what men are
Big
liking. These
booty
are
girl.
the big, but guess we all got booties. Okay. I mean, different levels. We're all blessed with different levels of booty, but we all have one. So it's not that special to take a picture of every day, is it? Um, that's what I had to settle in myself, that I was like, you know what, it's okay to not be, I don't need to be loved widely. I don't need to everybody to find me sexually attractive, but I think that we come in our culture, you want to be appealing to everybody. And you feel like it's so funny. I said this in our, at Trinity, we had our breakout rooms, and I did a breakout room, and I was like, we're in a closed room, right? We're not in a closed room now. But I was like, sometimes, excuse my language, it really feels like hoes be winning. And you're like, they're winning. I should jump on the whole side. But because it seems like that's who's getting the attention. That's who the athletes are dating. That's who the basketball players are dating, whatever. But you just kind of hold your horses. You only need one. You only need the eyes of one. But it's something that you have to grow and mature to
So how
feel.
did that change? Of course, now you are a wife.
I'm getting asked this in the comments too on YouTube.
You are a wife. You are a mom. So, of course, I guess your standards changed as you became a wife and as you became a mom. So, do you think that a single woman doesn't have to have those standards?
I don't think that I think she should still have standards for herself. I think it's up to you ultimately, I think what's too much. Like, especially nowadays, like stuff has gone further than it was even when I was in college. Like, now something can be like completely sheer, you know what I mean? And so I think you have to just settle, like, think about your motivation. Like, what am I really trying to accomplish right here? And do I want the attention I'm going to get? There are certain things, believe it or not, that I wouldn't wear because I don't want the attention I know it was going to get. Like, even now, those leggings that everybody likes from Amazon that have the ruching in the middle of the butt, I will not walk down 125th Street with that because I don't want that attention. They have those other leggings too that have like the contouring marks around the butt. I don't want that attention. So I'm not wearing that, because even when I go to work out now to the gym, I wear even in the summertime, I tie a jacket around my waist. Not because I'm trying to be like, oh, modest, and I think it's a holy thing to do. It's because I don't want that type of attention. I don't want the randos gawking after me. So now that, being a wife and mom, someone in the comment asked, Kindra, how were you dressed when you met your husband, sexy or modest? So I can't remember, probably somewhere in between. And I think I err, I wouldn't say on the sexy side. To my dad, he probably would say I err with how I dress a little bit more sexy. I'm not the most modest woman in the world. I don't think I don't think that's my gift, to be the most modest woman
You don't have to be
ever.
gift. Yes, receive it. Receive. Put your hands up. Say, I receive modesty.
Oh, this hand won't open all the way. I can't. Probably somewhere in the middle, but I think Jamel likes for me to look a certain level of attractive, you would say, and not even from like a sexy standpoint. He he's a designer. He appreciates fashion and stuff like that. So I think it's more about being like fashionable. And if that means it's strapless or shorter, I think it's fine as long as it's not extra revealing. Now, there was one time we were going to a costume party and I was about to wear something and Jamel was like, you shouldn't wear that. Like, put some shorts on under that. And I was like, okay, cool. And I did. So it's not like he wants me on display or anything like that. So I think that it's look feminine, look attractive, but just have a little couth about it. Have a little taste about it. I don't want it to be all about that,
but I think, what you said in terms of how you want to be perceived is something you have to think about.
Yeah,
Even,
but that.
even,
Oh,
now,
sorry.
listen, even at, but even as a man, as a minister, for example, some of y'all don't realize, the whole purpose of robes years ago, this was your uniform. And when a preacher stood with a robe, this shows I'm here in this place to do this job. Okay. And so, y'all, those who know me know I tend to be a little fashionable, but there are things I wear on Wednesday night where I'm real casual for our casual Bible study
Time and place.
that I'm not going to do on Sunday morning. Okay. And so, because I'm always, your mom and I, we're going to a special type of meeting. So there are things we wear for certain places. And so I think you do have to think about how you're being perceived. Women, now, let me just say this. I think that your dress also determines the type of man you should be guided by, type of man you want to attract.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hear me out on this. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I agree, because I think you don't want to be out here looking, you don't want to look cheap. Okay. You don't want to look cheap. You don't want to look like you are accessible to everybody. However,
You mean
tell me if
cheap
I'm
like
wrong
a cat
there.
out of hope?
You don't. How many times could we say ho before this is just not okay anymore? But hear me out. As a single woman, or even as a married woman on a date, even though I don't want to just look like I am oozing sex, I do want to look sexy for my husband. And as a single woman, maybe going on a date, even if you don't want him to take you home tonight, you want him to want to have sex with you eventually. Right? Like, I don't think that we should totally villainize the idea of wanting to look a little sexy, especially if you are a single woman. It doesn't we can define sexy different ways, but even if this man is going to be your husband and you are not going to you ain't going to kiss him until your wedding day. Okay? You want him to sleep with you eventually.
So this is what I say about that. Men, it don't take much for men to be thinking about sex, period. I mean, you've heard all the stats about how many thoughts a day a man has about sex, especially in particular, the younger, in particular age group. So a man is going to be thinking about sex, period. Okay. So I don't think he need a whole bunch of help. I think you should look attractive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And single women, can we talk about that? I'm going to talk about that Friday night. Me and one of my daughter-in-laws was talking about that. Okay. If you have a desire, and I still believe that what the scripture says, he that findeth a wife finds a good thing and obtains the favor of the Lord. So if you're the type of woman who's going to add value to his life and your price is far above rubies, then he needs the favor of God to find you. Okay. So, but however, you need to be available to be found.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be attractive to be found. Okay. So you can't just walk around. I don't care what my hair look like. I don't care what I got, because I ain't looking for no man. Well, fine. Then understand you ain't looking for one, and one will not be looking for you. I really do believe this. Some of y'all may not like this. If you are a single woman who's looking to be found, you need to be attractive all the time. That doesn't mean dressed up all the time. Okay.
Presentable.
I mean, except for an emergency where you just got to run out the house and grab something, you need to have yourself together. Okay. All the more so if you're coming to church and coming to an event or whatever. It shouldn't look like there was no thought. Now, my mother told me this, and it may not be true today. If my mother was still living, my mother died when she was 45. If she was still living, she would have been 88. November 2nd. So she was a whole nother generation. But my mother once told me, if a woman don't care about her hair, she don't care about anything. Now, she told me that, it stuck with me. Okay. And so I know it's different standards today. Okay. But I'm saying, so single ladies, you need to be attractive. I don't necessarily agree that Christian women should go around trying to look sexy. Okay. But I do believe you need to be attractive. Okay, yes, please. Can you, Kendra, can you talk about the bonnets? Because I've mentioned, people know my position on bonnets.
I
But
don't
you're
want to
the
tussle.
professional,
I don't want to fight.
Okay.
You know, and that's not even my generation. Millennials, we at least know that you are being a little ratchet if you're wearing a bonnet outside. You know that.
You
The
think?
Gen Z, yeah, the Gen Z, they think it's cute. They like do it like an accessory. I don't understand. I mean, I think the one place where it's okay to look however crazy you look is the Black beauty supply store. We are all there, women. We're in camaraderie. We know that you are going to look cute tonight, and that's why you're at that store. You know, but I'm not going to get too much into the bonnets. I will just say, don't be caught slipping. I used to feel like that when I was single.
Tell me what?
Don't get caught slipping.
Okay.
You know, like I used to always think, like, you know what, I could meet my man at the grocery store. I can meet him anywhere. I don't want to go out and I see someone and I'm like, oh my God, I hate that I look like this. I can't, he's not going to approach me, or I can't talk to him, you know? So you just always, and I don't think that should just necessarily change when you get married. You know, I still need to be attracted to my husband. I still want him to feel proud that I'm his wife.
Sure.
I don't want it to look like, oh, he's with her. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I definitely still think that that should just be something that you have pride in yourself at all times, that you want to present yourself wherever you go. But my dad actually wrote me a letter. Do you have that? An email.
Yeah.
An email to me about how I was dressing in
and I was
college.
livid.
Oh yeah, on my 25th birthday. He brought this up and I was like, no, we got to wait until the live to talk about it. On my 25th birthday, I was wearing a halter top. It was a deep cut halter top. There was a little bit of, it came cut a little inward here, lower back, and I had on a pencil skirt. The pencil skirt wasn't long though. And I had some heels for my birthday dinner. And I did not, as a funny thing is, we were going out with my parents, me and two of my best friends. And I told them, like, girls, don't come dressed like we're going to the club. We're going out to eat with my parents. So that was my mindset. And I was about to go out, but then I looked and I was like, I don't look like it's my birthday. I need to look like it's my birthday. So I put a couple things on and I was like, now I look like it's my birthday. I wasn't really aiming for sexy. I was aiming for birthday. But for a 25-year-old girl, I don't know if there was that much of a difference between sexy and birthday in my mind. And so I go out, I see my dad, and he is hot. He like, and I think it made it worse. I think there was a baseball team in front of us that was waiting to be seated at the restaurant, and they were all gawking at me. And you were hot. You had to walk away.
Mm.
Yeah. And I was like,
And
oh, I felt so bad about that outfit. We went out later and I changed. They're like, you can actually wear this to the next place we're going. I was like, it's okay. I don't want to remember.
Do you recall any details about that outfit?
Yeah, it was a halter top. It was a black halter top bodysuit.
A loose halter top that had side boob showing.
I knew it was the back was out.
It wasn't just the back out. I didn't have a problem with back out.
It cut a little close on the side.
Side boob showing.
I wasn't really conscious of the side boob.
You weren't. See, again, you weren't. And she was with her holy, anointed mom and dad, Bishop and Dr. Marsha. And I'm sitting here with my daughter, we're eating dinner with a side boob showing. I felt the other part of that. I know you didn't think about it that way, but I felt disrespected. I felt like, our standards, what we would want. Even if you were wearing that, why would you wear that to dinner with us? That's how I felt about that.
So Bishop is still traumatized. I mean, that was a miss. That was a miss. It wasn't intentional. I didn't put it on and say, who cares? I just wasn't always conscious of how I looked in certain things. I just wasn't.
Yeah. So how much can I talk about that letter?
Go for it.
Okay.
I have no shame.
I have no shame, because that was then, this is now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to share with y'all. Let me see why the standard has to be what an athlete, celebrity likes. Okay. Yeah. Letter to my daughter, June 6, 2016. You still have this letter, right?
Mm-hmm. In my email, yeah.
Sure, because this is I have it in my Google Docs. It said, I've been thinking about exactly what to say and how to say it since you showed up to your birthday dinner with us in a very provocative outfit. Several times over the last couple of years, I had decided to write you versus trying to talk to you in hopes that you will have time to reflect and perhaps even heed my counsel. I completely understand that you're grown, at least regarding your choice of clothing, and you are not, quote unquote, required to heed anything that I or your mother says, but I hope you will at least allow an older, wiser, and more experienced man who really loves you to weigh in on your decisions. I will be very direct for the purpose of you completely knowing my feelings, but know that my intentions are not to hurt you. I have been full of mixed emotions since that night, including anger, disappointment, and regret. I felt very angry and even disrespected that you would show up to dinner with your parents, especially me, knowing how appalled I would be in seeing you with attire similar to what a prostitute might wear. Showing your chest and breasts from the front and especially the sides, and then all your back out. And this is what's in the letter. It says, what the blank were you thinking? That's how mad I was that I wanted to cuss, but I didn't. What the blank were you thinking? And then I said, to see a team of teenage boys lusting and making comments about my daughter, not because of your natural beauty, but because of your seductive sexual attire, made it even worse and added to my outrage. As I told you before, you must decide who you are, will be, and what you want to be known for, what you will use to attract men, and what type of man you want to be attracted to you. I can assure you that men will be attracted to any woman's body when they get glimpses of their breasts, thighs, skin, etc. Men are sight driven, which prostitutes well know, so they expose their bodies for that purpose. Is that what you're attempting to do? I'm sure it isn't, but a man who doesn't know you really doesn't know what your motive is, and I'm unclear as well. You can and will attract men through sex with your body, no question about that. The question is, what type of men do you want to attract? You must answer that question based upon the attire you had on the night of your birthday and the attire in your most recent dancing video on Instagram. Something else you must add.
I remember that one.
Your dancing video on Instagram. You will attract the type of men and attention. You will attract the type of men and attention that you may not want. The men who you would want to attract and who me and your family would approve of will most likely be completely turned off. A man who's looking for a woman immediately puts women into two categories. Women, I talk about this, and I often talk about this on our Single Ladies Night. Men put women in two categories. One, the woman for life, woman for life. Two, a woman for a night. Since you will continue to attract who you don't want and then repel who you do want with inappropriate attire and sexually provocative clothing. In addition, you may even endanger yourself by being out at night dressed like a lady of the night. Though we were in Harlem and I saw hundreds of girls and women go by, no one else around us was dressed like that.
It wasn't their birthday. I'm just kidding.
Though you profess to be a Christian, at some point, you must get serious enough about your relationship with God to live by God's standards for you and not just by your own regarding how you behave, where you go, and yes, even what you wear. Notice I didn't even say live by my or your parents' standard, because it's obvious, okay, I was mad here, that you don't care about our standards for you, which you don't have to because you are legally grown. At this point in your life, I'm not sure who your role models are or your influences are, but I suggest you evaluate them as well. That night, your mom even said to me, there's a deeper issue, the need for attention. If that is the case, you will get attention by displaying your body and sexiness, which should be preserved and reserved for your husband. But I repeat, it will be the wrong type of attention by the wrong type of men. So I submit several questions for you to consider. Would you go to meet a respectable young man's parents in such attire? If not, why the blank would you wear to meet your own? What first impression do you want, especially men, to have of you upon first sight? Because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. How would you want a man to describe you? What type of man do you ultimately want to attract? A man who just wants to have sex with you, touch, fondle, kiss, etc., your body parts that you have teased him with, or a man who sees you as a beautiful, classy, intelligent woman who he would want to grow with, be proud to introduce to his parents, and he could take to someplace other than a nightclub. I'm sure you're saying that you are the latter, but I assure you, when you wear certain clothing, that is not what you are presenting, nor the type of man you will want to attract. Then I give a bunch of scriptures because when
he went off, right? He ate me. Jessica said he ate you up, friend. He ate me up.
Yeah, when let me see. I gave a bunch of them. See, I have summarized this here. Let me see. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I have regrets. Those regrets are that while you were a minor in our home, I did not enforce stricter standards upon you and take the time to explain these things to you more when I could and should have. There were many intense conversations and arguments that your mom and I used to have about this subject, and I backed down for the sake of peace, which I strongly regret. Your mom once told me it was just a phase you were going through. That was before you graduated from college and moved to New York. Obviously, the phase is continuing, and I don't see it coming to an end. In conclusion, I'm sure you evaluate my statements and opinions through the filter of me being an older preacher, pastor, etc. I have come to accept the fact that you are legally grown and you don't have to live by my opinions or standards, but please understand that at the end of the day, I simply feel that much of your attire and even lifestyle is both unwise and unsafe as a single young woman, not to mention living in New York City. I love you so much and really want God's best for you. I want you to maximize all your potential and to avoid the pitfalls and snares that the devil may try to set up for you. I want you to have your best life with the best person God has for you. I also know that you think much of this doesn't matter because you were young. However, decisions in your youth can put your life on a trajectory that may take years to recover from, if you recover at all. Then I give my list of scriptures.
Thesis. He went in, right? Whew, man, I could feel the emotion back in that.
What y'all think about that? Yeah, go ahead. Looking back, what's your thoughts now about that?
Looking back, I'm glad that I have a father who loves me so much that you were just, ready to give me all of that information and to try to do it in a way that you felt like I could receive it. I did realize that was definitely an inappropriate outfit to wear with your dad. Don't wear that with your dad, whether your dad's bishop or not. Don't wear that outfit with your dad. I shouldn't have done that. So, and my mom said he still blames me for all y'all short dresses. And I remember it's so funny. My mom walked away and she was like, you walked away. And mom was like, Kindra, why would you wear this? And I was like, it's my birthday. And she was like, and that's all that matters, huh? That's the only thing that matters right now. And I'm like, okay, so my perspective was off. I was young. I think that it really wasn't intentional. It really wasn't malicious. It wasn't intended to be disrespectful. I think I was just very much like of the culture at the time, and of the culture, I was, trying to dress what I felt like was a birthday outfit. And now it's not, I wouldn't express myself that way now, but I think that's just where I was. And I think that I'm such a self-expressive, such an authentic person that I used to always kind of feel like, well, if I feel like I have to act differently from my family, then my family, they're going to be end up being the people who don't know me. If I have to act different from my family, then everybody else is going to know the real me, and my family is going to only know the fake me. So I'm not going to fake for my family, which is what I used to call myself doing.
I can understand that. But let me address the thing about the culture, because from a Christian perspective, that's what the Bible means when it says in Romans 12:1, be not conformed to this world.
Yeah.
But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. One of the translations of that, it says, don't adapt to the world's culture. And so I think there's a time that we as Christians, all of us in general, but specifically in the context of what we're talking about, single ladies, that you have to think about kingdom culture more than Black culture, urban culture, country, whatever the
Yeah.
culture is.
And I apologize for that. Not just for that night, but for any time that you felt like I was disrespecting you by how I showed up, that it was being irreverent to you as my father, as a bishop. I apologize for that.
I wasn't.
I don't know.
I wasn't even the bishop then.
Pastor, man of God, whatever. I apologize for that because it would have been so easy sometimes. Like, girl, keep the peace. Put some jeans on. It would have been easy to do, and I apologize.
Apology accepted.
Does that heal you at all?
Well, as I read it, as you see, it triggered me. It triggered me. You remember another time I took you. Me and Mom was in, I think, Charlotte. And were you in college?
Lionel Richie concert. I was in college.
I took you to a Lionel Richie concert, and I couldn't even listen to Lionel Richie that evening for what you wore to that concert.
I had a blazer on though. I had a jacket with it.
Okay.
It was just short. Anywho,
I remember again. It was the side boob things. You had this thing with this side boob.
It was.
Yeah,
boobs.
Ladies, Christian ladies. I'm very serious about this. Boobs are unacceptable. Not boobs for the sake of having boobs. Exposing your boobs is unacceptable for a Christian woman who's living out her Christianity. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just gonna go on the record to tell you that. Even all the stuff y'all do today with all this cleavage, that's not acceptable for Christian. Now, I know what the world does. I know what fashion does. I know what they do. But for a Christian woman, y'all, that ain't cool.
Bishop has spoken. There was something that someone said, what would I do? And I know we might have a little echo on Instagram. It's because we're on YouTube and Facebook too. So sorry about that. But someone asked, what would I say to my niece? I think about that with Alina. And I think what I would tell her is that even though it doesn't feel like a big deal, it is. It matters more than you feel like it matters. Because a lot of times I just felt like it didn't matter. But then also, I think I have a good balance, So the 20s could be an interesting time for a girl's wardrobe because we are going from teen to womanhood. You have a lot of errors figuring out the balance. Yes, I agree. It's an era. You're figuring out the balance. You're coming into your womanhood. You're trying to figure out what that looks like. And you may not always know, but I would say ask if you having an older woman in your life that you can check, that's not your mom, that you think is cool, that you respect. I think having her as like a check would be good. You can ask her, is this too much? Someone that's going to keep it real with you, someone that you don't think is, over the top in either direction. I think that could have benefited me at the time for sure.
Were there other questions? I'm curious, were there any questions of me, questions of Kindra Moné? Because we're going to wrap this up here soon. Yeah.
What if you have large boobs? I mean, I guess you can't really do it, but sometimes, and that's also what I think too. Like there are someone said, what if you had large boobs? Like, for example, I've seen it happen twice. Once with a teacher on social media, and another time with like a women's basketball coach who got called out for like dressing too sexy. But literally, sometimes you're a curvy woman, you're gonna put on clothes, and somebody else can wear the exact same thing as you. It's gonna turn heads with you in it. That's not your fault, and I don't think that it's up to us to overcompensate for that. You might disagree. I think that you should. I do understand now there are certain things like, okay, my friend Jessica, she's petite. Certain things that she can wear, and it won't look like she's trying to be sexy. And if I did, just off the strength that I'm taller, it'll look like more of a thing. I understand that we can't wear all the same clothes, but
speaking of a little bit, Jessica T. Remember when y'all were coming up, I would say, Jessica can wear that. You can't wear that. Mm-hmm. Well, her mama once said to me, will you please stop telling her she can wear that? Because she can't wear that either.
Oh, that's funny.
Stop
The
saying
20s.
she can wear that, because she can't wear it either.
Yeah, someone said the 20s is really tricky. In the 20s, we think of dressing sexy as an act of freedom. Yeah, you
Mm,
don't really
trying to,
mean,
this is your chance to be grown.
yeah, you're just trying to be grown. You're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Um,
But y'all,
Summer,
I'm very serious about this. I don't think.
oh,
Uh, Go ahead.
someone asked, these are questions, but I'll let you go ahead.
I don't think we hear enough teaching about this today, because particularly younger people, you're so concerned. We're trying to put you in bondage, trying to make you feel condemned. There's nothing about it. There are still things that are acceptable and unacceptable from a word standpoint for Christians to do, to live, how we talk, how we dress, all of that. It's still, and so it's the whole concept of kingdom culture. Miles Monroe, Mom and I, we've been watching a lot of Miles Monroe lately, because we kind of stumbled across a YouTube channel or something. And you probably don't even know who he is, Kendra. Uh, who did a lot of teaching in, he died, he's from the Bahamas. Most of us know who he taught about purpose and kingdom and vision. Those are things he had great revelation on. So he did a lot of, and he unfortunately died in a plane crash on his way back to he and his family, his wife, and several of the staff members. They all died in the plane crash, maybe about 10 years or so ago. But he was talking about kingdom, and he talked a lot about the kingdom. He said, we understand that's what they do over there in the kingdom of God. It's just like I was teaching my series that I did last week, and today was about changing financial systems. Well,
That's good.
we can get the revelation about financial system, but it's not just that's an aspect of. There's other things that go with this kingdom system. The king. In the world, it's about drawing attention to yourself. Okay, that's what the world does. That's not kingdom culture. In the world, it's about just trying to get rich. That's not kingdom culture. In the world, it's dog eat dog and do what you got to do to get ahead. That's not kingdom culture. And so I think once we realize that, and even as Christians, we realize we're not just called we're called to be light and salt in the earth and to represent Jesus. And there are things that will attract people to Jesus, and there are things that will repel people from Jesus. And I think that sometimes we can cloud our witness, and we can distract from our witness based upon how we conduct ourselves and carry ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. And I was asked, do you think you felt unseen by your dad, causing you to seek attention? And no, I think I just thought I was cute, and I was fit. There was nothing that I never, until actually having a baby, was the first time where I felt maybe I shouldn't wear this. I never had that thing where I was like, oh, I shouldn't wear this because I was fit. It was fine. So yeah, I really was just felt like I was having fun and expressing my freedom. And I didn't think it was that serious. And when at times I should have. I don't want to, we've been on this a lot because this has been a big thing in our relationship. I don't want this whole conversation. I don't want to end on, only talking about like modesty here. So I have a question for you, Dad. Now that I am an adult, what is something that you feel like you've instilled in me that you are like, wow, that came around, or I'm proud to see that in her, or that you feel like are attributes that you gave me?
Well, and it applies to you. You probably lived it out, probably bolder than anyone else. And I say that with all my children, including my 3 boys. I think I instilled faith in y'all. So, I just got finished teaching in direction conference about risk-taking faith. All of you took risk. But at the same time, I think you took risk knowing that you had covering and a floor. And boy, I never said that before, because I think that's something that parents provide for their children, or should provide for their children: a covering and a floor. In other words, you're not going to fall but so far without me helping you. That's that floor. So which enables you also to take more risk. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think I instilled faith in you. And which I see you walk out. I think um I I I think I instilled a sense of character in you that I see you walk out. I see that in how you treat people and how you respond to situations. How you I use a term when I was talking to our men Friday night about being high functioning, and high functioning other than your clothing. Okay. High functioning, I define that as the ability to connect the dots between actions and consequences.
Mm,
People who aren't high functioning, they just make decisions, they do things haphazardly in a vacuum without thinking about consequences. So, um, not that any of us or all of y'all had that perfect, but I think for the most part, y'all are high functioning in terms of how you deal with relationships, how you deal with people. I've never seen any of y'all just get crazy. I mean, we've seen people who just flip out and act crazy, and you're like,
mhm,
what is wrong with this person? Who are their parents? Can anybody reel them in? That kind of thing. I don't see that with any of you. Um, and let's see, so what I say, faith, character,
mhm,
um, yeah, and a sense of morality. Well, that I guess that goes with
kind of
character.
between the two. Yeah.
Yeah, that goes with, and I see y'all walk, and confidence. Okay. Um, I see you that you operate in a lot of confidence.
Thank you.
And one of the things that how we raise y'all different than how we were raised is that, and your grandmother, you've heard your mom talk about your grandmother, her mom. Your opinion didn't matter.
Mhm,
Okay. We always allowed you to express your opinion.
mhm,
I remember teaching y'all, okay, you can say whatever you want. You just got to watch how you say it. So
mhm,
we allowed y'all to express yourselves.
mhm.
And so to some, I think that helped with that confidence.
I
Okay.
agree.
That helped you be able to defend your position. Um, I remember one of the teachers saying one time about Chandler, they said, um, I can't remember how she said, he's the most respectful bad kid.
Like it's not disrespectful, it's just bad.
But I can never say he's disrespectful. He'll never be disrespectful. Well, we raised y'all to respect adults, to respect authority, but we also raised you to that you can express yourself. I mean, you did
Mhm.
that in elementary school. Was it elementary school when the teacher took your phone or whatever it was?
Oh no, no. I think it was a couple of times in middle school. There was I was in detention, and the teacher told somebody to throw their notebook away, and I was like, "Don't throw your notebook away." I was like, "I'm sorry, that's not right. I have to stand up for this, okay? Not to be disrespectful, but injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We just learned that. I don't stand for this." But then in in high school, yeah, I got my phone taken, and I was like, "No, you can't take my phone. You're stealing from me. I'm gonna call the police. Is there any other consequences that I could take?" Right now. Like, oh, she wasn't being disrespectful, but yeah,
Yeah,
well, thank you. Thank you. And I would definitely agree that you instilled
and
those
yeah,
things in
and
me.
I- and I'm so proud of you, and all of you, and all of you have. What's so interesting about you and all of our children is that you each had a passion in different areas, and you pursued those passions. Now we had to come to the point of allowing you to do that.
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't try to make you a preacher, even though you're evolving into one. Okay. I didn't try to make you preacher. I didn't, there was a pastor's wife who's a woman preacher who came up in the background where, so, there was a time if you was pastor's kids, particularly in Pentecostal churches, you sang and you played.
Hmm.
All of you played. You played some instrument, and
Hmm.
and this a woman came. I can mention her name. She uh, uh, Bishop Carolyn Showell. She spoke, I think, last year, 2 years ago, for our direction conference. She said to me, She said, none of your children play? I said,
Like,
no.
why not?
She said, you got 4 children. What? And she said, like, what's wrong with you? What didn't you do? How your children get raised in your house and didn't play? No, they didn't play instruments. They played volleyball. They played basketball. They played football. Okay. And so we allowed y'all to grow and to come into your own with your own gifts, talents, and ability, and explore those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's definitely has shaped me, to be someone who I feel like I'm not who I'm going to be yet still. And I definitely can see that all of those things played a huge part in it.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, y'all, was there any other questions? I hope y'all enjoyed it. Listen, but they're going to put up again. I need y'all to register. Okay. As you see,
Some people were asking how they could register.
Register for Friday night for our single ladies night. Again, I'm going to give $100 to the Right Direction member.
Now, what if they're watching this on their phone and they can't actively scan? What's the website?
The website
is it on rightdirection.info?
Rightdirection.info, and have it there. Rightdirection.info. Register.
And it's not on Instagram. I'll put it in Instagram. It's rightdirection.info.
Or either that or rdci.info. Again, Single Ladies Night. I hadn't done this in several years, and several of my single daughters in the church came and said, Bishop, can you bring back the Single Ladies Night? And we used to call it. So I'm going to review my notes because there's some staple principles that I like to cover in this, and because we originally called it What Daddy Didn't Tell You About Men. But as you see, this is some areas that I'm passionate about.
And y'all, oh, sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
I want y'all to experience God's best, be your best. I want you to, those of you who want to be married, you don't have to be married. Paul said, you want to avoid trouble, don't get married. That's what Paul said. Okay. To me, it's worth the trouble, but you don't have to be. I don't want anyone to feel like you're less than if you're not married. You don't have to be married. You can better please the Lord. You can be a better church volunteer and a better servant in ministry if you're not married. I often say, I should tell my staff, I say, they single, work them to a frazzle, because when they get married, and have children, all that has to change. Okay. So I hope y'all will register. You were going to say what, honey?
And I wanted to just point out, because someone said, well, people, all of that stuff on modesty and all of that has always been put in on the women. It's always on the women. He talks to the men too. Okay. He has man to man where he is instructing these men on how they need to live too. So please don't think that this is one of those situations where people are coming down on women and that men are just left to be unaccounted for. That's not the case here.
Not at all. If brothers were on here tonight, they would tell you. I'm not going to say I come to the brothers, but I teach the brothers as well. And talking about this whole thing about lust and all that, a lot of people don't. Jesus raised the ante on that. Jesus said, you've heard thou shalt not commit adultery. And we're like, yeah, I don't commit adultery. He said, but let's take this a little deeper. It's not a matter of simply asking. Let me go to the heart. He said, he that looks on a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery in his heart. So Jesus said, we got to deal with our heart issues. Okay. And so, you got to deal with the heart issue. Why is it that you are so stimulated? Why is it that you immediately go there? Okay. And so, and so I think there's a part regarding that. There's a part for women. There's a part for men. There's a part for both of us. Everything's not just on women. Men also, I mean, they used to, in these some more traditional denomination, women weren't allowed to have their toes out.
Wow.
Seriously, you had to have toe covered shoes because that could cause a man to lust. Well, saying like you need to deal with that man's toe fetish.
Yeah.
That's the bigger issue is that some bishop, somebody had a toe fetish that he need to get delivered from, rather than putting women in bondage that they got to have their toes covered.
Yeah.
So,
and before we go, there's one thing I didn't get to say, and I don't want to get too into it because it's getting late. But one thing I wanted to say, I think that having a father and having brothers gave me more realistic expectations for men. And I think our culture, especially with social media and everything like that, these girls want young men to just trick off on them, to take them to 5-star restaurants. You can't take a coffee date. You can't go to the Cheesecake Factory.
And
Me and my
we're
husband
gonna
just went to
talk
the
to that
Cheesecake
Friday
Factory
night.
last week.
And I told them they're gonna be home. They're gonna be staying home.
I mean, and the first date. My first date with Jamel was there was a festival, Harlem Week. It was outdoors. It was free. He asked if we wanted to meet there. That was our first date. It was free. We did, and actually ended up getting rained on, and then we ended up going into a restaurant. But had I turned him down because he think he about to meet me at the park, like that would be ridiculous. Okay, I think that sometimes we're missing out on things because these standards that we have that are based off of what I think that having men in my life gave me a bit more of a realistic expectation of men. So y'all have the rest of the conversation next Friday night. If you're in Columbia, make sure you go to the Single Ladies Night. It's going to be good.
Real quick, I meant to ask you this earlier, Kindra. What was for the single ladies here, what was your biggest adjustment in getting married?
Oh man, what was my biggest adjustment
Been married
getting
2 years.
married? Been married 2 years. I mean, I never had to share a bathroom ever. Like I had my own even in college.
Right. You always had your own room.
I always have my own bathroom. Even in college, I have my own bathroom. And trying to get ready, and you got to go and someone is in the bathroom. I'm like, why are you in the bathroom? I'm like, he lives here. He has the right to be there. So that was an adjustment. And I think just marriage is such a call to selflessness in every way. And it calls out ways that you're being selfish. And so I think just learning to look at everything that I do and think about how does this affect my husband, like every single thing. That was an adjustment, trying to rise up to that occasion. But overall, I think Jamel's probably the easier person to live with out of the two of us. So he probably had to do a little bit more.
My son-in-law, he is so low key. He is so even keeled. Sometimes I look at him when I see Kindra or sit here, I'm like, you're not flipping? That didn't bother you?
Oh, don't get it twisted. He can flip. He got it in him.
Well, I guess he don't do it around me, but he, now the only time I've seen him look like he was getting ready to get a little, use the old word crunk, or get a little lit. We were out in public. Somebody did something. Oh, I remember.
Oh yeah. The guy said something. We were walking by.
Said something to you.
Mm-hmm.
We were walking down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, no, come on, let's keep it moving. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not packing up here in New York. So we need to keep it moving here.
Yeah, he got it in him.
Yeah.
And I think in general,
that whole concept, y'all. If you were as a single woman will acknowledge, I am just so selfish. It's all about me. Just understand that is okay. You're just acknowledge you're not ready to be married. Because all selfishness on both sides, male and female, has to go out to what makes a marriage work is selflessness. It is the ultimate, we call America democracy. They call this experiment in democracy. Okay. Marriage is the experiment of selflessness. And what makes the experiment work is that you learn and become perfected in being selfless.
Yes. And you have to learn as a woman, believe it or not, the relationship is not all about you. I know that courting is him trying to get you, trying to win you. And that courting, all that should continue on throughout your whole relationship. But you want a satisfied partner. You want him to be pleased just like you want to be pleased. So trying to make sure that you are also making your husband happy wife, happy life. We can't just rely on that. You need to be also make sure that you're being a good partner. And I think that sometimes as women, when you're in the dating scene and you're kind of focused on you being the prize, which you are, you can lose the fact that you also need to be making sure that your husband's happy.
And we're going to go, but that is being flipped now. Men are also being taught that they're the prize. Well, okay, now with respect to statistics,
Uh,
okay, that there are more women available, qualified, eligible women to be married than there are men. So the scarcity, if there is scarcity, statistically, naturally, is on the side of the males. Okay. But interesting enough, you said something you never thought that way. And so as a believer, you got to get rid of scarcity mentality, even if that's in the world.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you, daughter.
Thank you, Father.
Thank
I
you for
appreciate you.
doing this. And again, this is a precursor and a teaser for Friday night. I hope all of you will join me as we talk more detailedly about on father-daughter talks, things that I want to talk to you all about. You may, and as you see it tonight, there may be some things that you disagree on, but you need to at least hear it. You need to hear from the perspective of a man and a father who loves you, is concerned about you, and want God's best for you. All
Mhm.
right. All right. Kindra, would you pray tonight for the single ladies before we close out?
Sure. Father, thank you so much for every single woman that is on this call or listening to this playback. Father, we thank you, first of all, that she is not looking to the world to define her worth, to define who she is, that she will find identity in you, Lord God, that she knows that she is a daughter of the King, that her price is far above rubies. If there's any woman who is watching this right now and has been doubting or wondering if she is good enough, if she has everything that she needs, if she has what she needs to quote unquote keep a man or to even be found, that she will let those lies from the enemy go away right now, Lord God, that they will be replaced by who you have told her that she is. Father, I thank you that we are women who go forth and represent you, that we are women who hold our heads high, that are sound in our identity, that we are secure in who we are, and that we shine our lights everywhere we go. In your name we pray.
In
Amen.
Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Love y'all. Have a great night.
Love you, Dad.